going to be boring for a bit. Sorry, everybody. Santiago's coming. Stu was kept up by an unnamed baby last night, so I think he's pretty dead today. To be kept unnamed to protect the innocent. I don't know. I got nothing else. It's Felicity. Harry, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here. Thanks for stopping in, dude. I hope all is well with you as well. Midfielders we can loan San Antonio? No, man. I mean, our roster is full and still not deep enough, which is like classic MLS, isn't that right? Maybe we could send Miguel Perez down. I don't know how much time he's gonna get. I think a lot because there's so many competitions, but yeah, I don't think you're gonna get much luck from us, Harry. You might want to send us a striker, actually. How does that sound? What's up, Chris? Thanks for joining us, man. Bilbo too. I got this chat box going today. The timing wasn't good on it when we first used it, and I think this is much better already. Although the delay is pretty bad. Oh no, not too bad. Chris, that was only like 15, 20 seconds after I said thanks for joining. Soccer Zombie, what's up? No, not solo. Thank God. No, that would be terrible. You guys wouldn't want to hear that. Santiago's joining. He typically comes straight from tennis on these nights, and he said he should be home around this time. So we're a little late. Sorry about that. Bad communication on our part, which is not unusual for me. Big Sam, Sam is going to be necessary. He's going to play a lot. I didn't think that Joaquini played a lot last year, and I was kind of feeling bad that he didn't get a lot of minutes because toward the end he was mostly used as a sub end of the season. But I was doing research for tonight, and the man got, where do I have that information? Almost 2,300 minutes last season. That's a gap that Sam Adeniran's going to fill probably, and that's hoping that Klaus doesn't get injured, right? I guess that's including a Klaus injury, but still, Sam's going to be massive for us this year. We're going to need him. Unless we sign someone, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight. I think Glover's going to get a lot of minutes too. We're going to talk about that. I don't want any spoilers. I'm excited to talk a lot about Glover tonight. Soccer Zombie, I love the Johnny Klein shout. Leading scorer for City too. He deserves a chance. But can our roster allow more than 2 appearances or 4? I can't remember how many appearances they can get from the 2 team. But man, I want Johnny Klein to play. I want him to get his chance. I want him to get a chance to develop. I just hope the roster allows it. It's cutthroat, like there's only a certain amount of room for people. And if we want Johnny to get minutes, like, does he have to take up a slot? How will we get that slot? Is it going to be at the cost of someone else? Scary stuff. Like, who are you going to cut? Let's not say it. Not yet, especially. I think people will be shouting from the rooftops by the end of the season. Like 6 months ago, I bet a lot of people would have said Stroud. Whether that's true or not, I think a lot of people would have said it. So I'm wondering who the guy's going to be this year. Yeah, I like that, Harry. Preseason for podcasters. My first one tonight. We're going to see how it goes. I've been thinking a lot about it, though. That's the thing about first show is I think about it all day long instead of kind of getting through the day, putting my kids to bed, and then starting to think it through right before we podcast. So I could be good today. I think I'll be rusty, though. Won't be a smooth talker. That takes practice. It's 4. Harry, what do you mean it's 4? What do you mean? Here's Santiago.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, we're
All
live
right.
just to let you know.
All right.
Don't say anything mean about anybody.
Oh, I won't. I wouldn't.
I know you wouldn't. Santiago is definitely the nicest of all of us.
You're back.
I'm back. It feels good. I was just saying, I've been thinking about this show like all day. I've been excited to do it.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Just been chatting with the chat.
Okay. You have been live for a while?
Yeah, 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, barely 10 minutes. Did you come from tennis? I was saying you were probably at tennis.
No, I was at an event and then I had to run an errand, so kind of make it just in time for the podcast.
Lovely. Thanks so much for doing it, man. I wouldn't do this alone, I don't think. I don't even think I'd try it. I love your
Yeah.
beard. You look great.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of a new thing, more like holidays, vacation.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm gonna keep it.
Okay. I mean, it's cold. You might want to wait a while before you shave
Yeah, maybe a couple more weeks.
it.
Last week it was longer because I had not shaved in a while, but
Mm.
I did some little bit of trimming this week just to make it look a little bit nicer.
Looks great. I love it.
Thank you.
I did no trimming, so that means my grays are poking through pretty nicely here.
Cool.
All right. Well, you ready? We might as well get started. Did you look over the notes?
I did. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I wanted to ask you if you wanted me to add anything in there, or if you just want to kind of throw it in
No,
yourself.
no.
Okay.
I think that's enough material for tonight.
Me too. I think we may end up just going 45 minutes since it's going to be for KTRS. I think we'll cover everything, but could be famous last words. We'll see. All right, here we go. I will hit record and we'll start. I'm nervous. Welcome, everyone, to Flyover Footy, soccer podcast in St. Louis. We are broadcasting on the big 550 KTRS as well as podcasting for you all tonight. We're streaming live, too. We've got a lot of people in the chat today. I'm really excited to have a fun show talking about massive news, bringing in the chat as much as we can. And I have my friend Santiago Beltran blessing us with his presence after a nice visit to Puerto Rico, as he likes to do. This is the second episode of the second season that St. Louis City has existed. And so, Santiago, we're gonna talk it through. We got a little bit to talk about tonight, don't we?
Yeah. The preseason just started, but already lots of things to talk about. So looking forward to getting into it.
Me too. And we're not going to bury the lead, everybody. We're going to jump right at you with the big news. It's not official, but it is Fabrizio Romano official. It is Manuel Veth official at this point. I don't know if we can even call it a rumor at this point, but I guess it's still kind of in that category that Nico Gioacchini will be transferred to Como FC in Serie B. I don't know if that is that Serie B. Do you speak any Italian, Santiago, as well as Spanish?
No Italian, but I'm gonna say Serie B.
Okay, great. So he's going to that club in Serie B, and that is their third place now. They were in second place a week ago, and they dropped down to third place. They're tied on points with Venezia, which is where two Americans, Tessman and Buzio, are playing. But the fee is for $2 million and up to $4 million after performance incentives that Gioacchini will be sold to them. This is still, of course, rumor at this point, not completely official, but probably true. I think we can say. And I think the biggest story here is yes, we're sad that we're losing Nico. You guys, I love what Matt posted just yesterday, I think, about how you guys were just talking in the last episode, how he was looking for a house, how he is a St. Louis man now, that St. Louis belongs to, that Gioacchini belongs to St. Louis. And then this news happens. It kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of reasons, but that was one of them, wasn't it?
I know things change so quickly, and great opportunity for him, great opportunity for the club. Obviously, he had plans to stay in St. Louis, and he was looking for houses. But that's the nature of the business. If you're a good performer and some opportunities come, you have to take them. I know his goal was to go back to Europe at some point, and he has to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, our friend Justin Horniker had an interview with him earlier. He all of his articles are in STL Mag, and you can find them online very easily with his podcast as well. But he asked Gioacchini about going to Europe again early last season. It might even been preseason. And here's what Nico said. He said, "I'm focused on this season on helping the team." He says that's the main focus. But yeah, it's definitely a goal of mine. I'm patient. I'll wait for the opportunity, but it's every player's dream to play at the highest level. It's just about having patience and not forcing anything. And, looking at, like we said, Como FC is in third place in Serie B. It doesn't take much to get promoted to Serie A. And I would, if you get an offer from a club like that, after a season that you just had with St. Louis that you did, and really even looking back at we're going to get really into the season he had previously with Orlando, strike while the iron is hot and go to a club that could be in Serie A next year. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. It could, springboard his career into something much bigger.
Yeah, because imagine you go to Como right now, and you have a good season with them and score some goals, contribute as a forward, and then they move to Serie A. You are still the guy. Yeah, they may look for some reinforcements to be in Serie A, but I think it's a great opportunity for him to go back to Europe with a club that is doing well in second division. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for him, and also for St. Louis to sell a player who did so well last season. Imagine before your second season, you had already sold a player overseas. It's a great accomplishment too.
It's massive. So, that's also burying the lead there a little bit, that Nico Gioacchini is the first St. Louis City player to be transferred, to be outright sold to a club in Europe. And I think it's perfect. It's so good. And the story is just almost too good to be true in a way. Let's look at the stats between his season with Orlando versus his season with St. Louis. With Orlando, it's just hard to imagine that they pulled this man out of France, a Ligue 1 club, the top tier in France this man is playing in, and he goes to Orlando. He gets 7 appearances and gets 139 minutes for Orlando last season. Not on the score sheet. They used him as a winger a lot of times, which we found out is not where he prefers to be. At least that's where he doesn't think he's best. Not that he wouldn't have done it if we asked him to. St. Louis City, 37 appearances. I had no idea it was that many. Almost 2,300 minutes, tallying 10 goals and 1 assist as a lone striker while Klaus was out, but often as the second striker. Hardly ever as a winger. Just what an amazing season from him. And a couple things about that, maybe that He wasn't being utilized correctly, perhaps with Orlando, but this is also part of the story that we saw with Stroud. City uplifting a player, making him better, using his talents in the best way, maybe even making him better. It depends on how you view the Stroud thing, Santiago. But that has to feel good that not only have we sold a player onto Europe, but we lifted him up to be a better player than he was before.
Yeah, and a player, if you go back and think about how St. Louis got Nico, he came from the expansion draft, so no acquisition cost. So just a player that, as you were mentioning with Orlando, very few minutes and very little opportunities. Then he comes to St. Louis and he basically is a contributor. You mentioned 37 games. The team played 40 games last year, so he was basically in almost every game. I know he missed at least one or two because of injury. So he was basically an every game player, and he didn't start every game, but he was he got significant minutes even from the bench when he was on the bench, and just 10 goals, 1 assist. I remember when City drafted him. I remember reaching out to a couple of people in Orlando. And basically not a lot of good things. They say, well, if he was unprotected on the draft, it's for a reason. He didn't do much here. But I remember talking to him and also listening to some interviews he gave also. And basically, the situation in Orlando when he came wasn't very good. They were already set up with their strikers, and it was more of an afterthought. I don't even know if Papi Pareja wanted him there, or maybe it was more like ownership, but it wasn't a good situation for him. And when he came to St. Louis, it was different. I remember talking to him, and when I asked him about Orlando, he was like, "Well, not many opportunities. Basically, my return to the U.S. and my start in MLS, I see it as like now here when I started with St. Louis. I don't think about Orlando much."
Yeah, I know. And I think I remember, I think it was Lutz that said, I think it was about Gioacchini, that he was surprised that he was left unprotected. Because, and maybe it's just like a luck in the way that St. Louis City plays, but Gioacchini is a great match. He has a lot of skills, a lot of tools that could be good on any team. I think, in fact, we see Chris Gebhardt said of STL Soccer News, such a high transfer fee as well. Cleary's going to play a lot for Como. Bilbo Swaggin says, I think his style will play well in Italy. Yeah, like he has a lot of athletic qualities. He's a dribbler. He's good at drawing fouls, as we've seen throughout the season. But mainly, he has those fox in the box capabilities that he can just score out of nowhere. We could look like we're not controlling the ball at all. We can throw some balls his way, and he will find a way to get that ball in the net, sometimes with some just insane finishes. And I'm sure those were some of the things that Como was looking at. No matter what style of play Como has, Gioacchini can be effective there, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's a good test for him going from MLS to second division, and he had previous to MLS, he had some experience in France, played first division, second division, so I think it will be easier for him to adapt since he had already played not in Italy, but he played in France. So I think adaptation for him will be easier than for a player that will be just going there for their first time.
Yeah, and I mean that speaks perfectly to the fun facts that I think a lot of our listeners will know this already. But in case you're listening and you don't know, Gioacchini is born to an Italian father, a Jamaican mother. But from the ages of 8 to 12, he lived in Parma, Italy, and that's only 2 hours away from Como. And apparently, Lake Como. I think we've all heard of Lake Como. Very beautiful, very gorgeous. If this goes through, and it looks like it will. Sounds like that could be a really nice vacation, Santiago. You might have to skip Puerto Rico next year and go to Lake Como.
Go to Lake Como, but in the winter, I'm not sure.
That's a good point. All right, I take it back. It's a little too far north for that. But it's such a wonderful thing. I'm so happy for Nico. I think this is a really good opportunity from him. And also just to take a half a step back, as a national team fan for the United States. He has 8 caps with them, 3 goals, 2 assists. I was just talking to the guys at MLS Aces about this situation, and I was like, listen, as it doesn't matter as a City fan, if you just take a step back and look as a USA fan, that seeing guys like Cade Cowell and Vasquez go down to Liga MX. And then we also see, what's his name, Robinson going to Cincinnati from Atlanta for a year, maybe 2. Seeing those guys move as national team players, as potential full team players, some of them maybe top national team players in the near future. Seeing them stay in this continent to me was a bit of a disappointment, and so I'm really happy to see Nico go. Did I already say that he has 8 caps with the national team, 3 goals, 2 assists? That's a lot of production with only 8 caps. He hasn't really gotten a good look with the national team, a fair shake. Perhaps he hasn't earned it yet, but now I think he's on his way to maybe earning that.
Yeah, I think now that he's going to be playing in Italy. I think Greg Berhalter and the coaching staff will start looking at him a little bit more. Yeah, I know they keep an eye on MLS, but I think they when somebody goes overseas to one of those top 5 leagues, I think they will keep a closer eye on it, and I think that will bring more opportunities for him, especially if he performs in this first period in Serie B, and then if they are promoted, it's a good opportunity for him. I think it's a win-win overall for him and for CDSC.
Agree. And with that, just like a side comment that since he does have an Italian father, since he's been playing in Italy, we're kind of thinking he probably has that Italian passport. So it's really easy for him, if so, to get that transfer in. He's not an international slot in Italy. He will just be, a domestic player over there, which is really nice for him. I think it was an easier move for him than maybe some of those other Americans, perhaps I was listing earlier. Is there anything else you want to say about the move itself before we kind of start talking about the effects of the move?
No, the move itself, no. Although, just looking here at our notes, is it bad timing? Is it good timing? Like, what are your thoughts?
It is. I mean, I said it's not the best timing because we're about to start playing, and this isn't the time to bring in a new striker and start teaching him the system, right? That's not something you want to be doing. Though I guess we just did it with 2 fullbacks, so maybe I'm overthinking that. But I guess that's also assuming we bring in a new striker. Maybe it's not that big a deal. I don't really know what to think about the Santiago and MLS Aces. The guys were like, listen, at least we're not 2-3 weeks into the season and you got a new player. And that's a good point, though we may be looking at that in a couple of weeks. What do you think, Santiago? Because you asked me, but I'm really torn on this issue.
Yeah, obviously timing is not great, but yeah, at least it happened at the beginning of preseason. But
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about what the team did last season, when some key players got injured and missed time, it was always that mentality: next man up, and guys perform. So to me, I don't think the team will replace him like right away during this winter window. Maybe depending on how things go, they may look at bringing somebody during the summer window. But I see this move as a great opportunity for other guys to step up. Like you have a young striker on Caden Glover that maybe could be looking at getting more minutes, even if it is from the bench. And you also have Rasmus Alm. Obviously, he's not gonna be. It doesn't look like he's gonna be available for the beginning of the season, but he had surgery and he's on his way up. He will recover from that injury and he could be an asset. He can play as a striker too. And then you have Nuke Vitorison, Celio Pompeo can also
Yeah.
contribute there. So I think it's an opportunity for all of these guys to get more minutes, and hopefully one of them or a couple of them will score goals and basically replace that production from Nico. So I think it's a good opportunity for the guys that are already there.
I agree. And I think we could even get to the point of saying that perhaps we don't make a move and we just see what the guys we have can do in that position. Assuming, fitness isn't going to be a problem for having to fill all those extra minutes and having less depth on the roster at that position. I don't really think it'll be a problem, to be honest. Maybe we almost never play a two striker system, and that in a way solves the problem, right? I mean, just two strikers rotating throughout the season with a little bit of Caden Glover pushed in. But I wouldn't hate it in the way that City spends, being bottom of the barrel, close to bottom of the barrel in spending. Perhaps they just see how the guys we have work and give them their chance, because the other flip side of this, just like you were saying, Santiago, that Caden Glover might get a nice chance. If we bring someone in, Caden Glover may not get that nice chance, right? You have to look at both sides of that, especially if we bring in someone, we're going to talk about the cap here, and there's a lot of room to spend if we really want to. And so if we bring a high quality player, a high spender, that's something that, Caden Glover may not get as much time. And I guess the last thing I want to say about Caden Glover is that, if we want to keep bringing up this 5-year plan of Lutz's, I think in that 5-year plan, Caden Glover would be expected to be, putting in a lot of minutes next season, the 25 season. And so maybe we're a year ahead. And so if he looks a little rough, just keep that in mind, right? Like maybe it's a year before he was meant to be playing a lot of minutes and be relied on, not just like getting extra minutes, but to be relied on to be a role player in this squad. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and the team is taking it easy with him. Last year, obviously, he had an injury, so he missed some time. But then, when he was playing with CD2, he scored goals, so he already had some success in MLS Next Pro. And I think the next step in that progression is to have him with the first team, train more with the first team, make game their roster a few times, and get some minutes from the bench. But yeah, I will continue the way the team is handling it, like one step at a time. Now you are part of the first team and you're fully integrated. Make the roster sometimes, come off the bench sometimes, and then basically you start building up, and then for 2025 he could be an option, and that's where I see players like Celio and Torison stepping up and getting more minutes, and sharing some of those minutes with Caden Glover.
Yeah, and I almost think that those people deserve those minutes. You look at what Celio did in that final game in the playoffs at the end of the game. I mean, it's a wild goal, right? But if he's able to step up in really important situations and be a role player in so many different ways. I mean, he played so many positions last year, maybe more than most other players on the squad. And so getting him more minutes is not a bad thing in my eyes. And it raises his profile in the same way that it raised Gioacchini's profile to come play for City. So, we can hope for the same thing for a guy that was just picked up at City 2 straight out of college is like a walk-on player. You know what I mean? I mean, that could be a really interesting story long term. You're listening to Flyover Footy on the big 550 KTRS. I'm a little late saying that. It's my first episode back. I said I was a little nervous, but it's going okay, Santiago. Not as smooth as always, but we're doing okay, right?
Yeah, you're doing great. Welcome back to Flyover Footy. Welcome to the 2024 season.
Oh my gosh. I've been putting it off because it's been such a busy, crazy year last year. We haven't gotten much of a break, but now with all of this ramping up, I've been so excited to get going again. I say that as we're about to move into the scariest part of the episode for me, and that is MLS roster rules are going to come into play as we talk about the waves that are flowing out of this possible deal here with Nico Gioacchini. Matt gave me a lot of information. I'm going to do my best to translate that for everybody, regurgitate it in the best way I possibly can, as I said online. The most interesting thing to start with, I think, is Matt like crunched some numbers and kind of looked at the salary that Joe Keeney was on, about $400,000, and added that to what he estimates City has available now based on all the numbers he crunched. I can't even tell you all of them. He kind of mentioned a few of them. And so he added things up, and the remaining money left is 229, just over $229,000 in TAM, 2.732 million in GAM, and the salary cap has $135,000. I'm rounding down and up here. $135,000 left on the salary cap, and that is pushing all of the money from salary cap to GAM. The salary cap has more than that, but it can be bought down by GAM, and so he's automatically pushing that to GAM.
Yeah.
In order, because that's just like it's roll. You can roll that over, whereas the salary cap just disappears and refreshes next year. So good stuff from Matt. That's massive. Again, 230,000 in TAM, 2.732 in GAM, $135,000 in salary cap. That's a lot of money to go out shopping with, especially with the skills that Lutz has, right?
Yeah, and just to clarify, these are estimates,
Yes.
since those figures are never made public. But it's estimates based on player salaries, which players you will need TAM for in order to lower their salary, their salary impact, and they will not be designated players. So these are all estimates, just to clarify, because that is never made. That information is never
Yeah.
made public, but
Thank you.
but it's a good indication or where we are at.
And Matt also thinks this is like the minimum of what's available. He doesn't think it's on the high side. He thinks if he's wrong, it's going to be more on the low side in the way that he calculated it. But that's a lot of money. Like you said, it can't be a designated player. Those slots are closed, right? It can't be, unless something changes, it can't be an international player unless we acquire a slot somehow, because we're all out of international slots. And in fact, Jose Kijima is also not allowed to be signed on a roster for that reason. Which actually, Santiago, we've been meaning to fit this into the conversation, and I think this is our perfect opportunity. No international slots unless something changes. One of those things that could change is a green card, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have players that came in 2022 between July and August. Roman Berkey, Edward Leuven, Nilsson, Klaus, Thomas Ostrak, Selmir Pedro, Isaac Jensen. That's like the core group of seven that came around that time, and um, all of them except Nilsson got MLS Next Pro minutes, some more than others. But just thinking about what has happened with other teams or international players, and it's not the same for every team. But for some teams it has been a year. For other teams it has been 2 seasons. We recently saw that Sebastian Drusi from Austin finally
Mhm.
got his green card, but this will be his 4th season. So it is not the same for every team. But I'm thinking that we're around that time frame where some of these players will be close to getting a green card. So that could be one of those things that before the beginning of the season is announced and they finally get it, and that releases some international slots. You were talking about Jose Kijima. If he is to be signed and nothing changes with the green card situation, the team will need to get an international slot in order to sign him. So hopefully we'll get some news on the green card front in the next few days.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, I think they can sign him to MLS to City too. And Harry Austin is in the chat, and he corrected me. You can get 4 loans up from the 2 team before you have to be
Hmm.
signed. So we could get a little bit of that. We were talking a lot about, who was I talking to about Chris Klein, or Johnny Klein rather, getting minutes. That's Soccer Zombie was on. with the Johnny Klein shout, and I'm with him. It'd be really nice, but man, we're so limited on space now. Gioacchini leaving would open one space up for a domestic player. So could Johnny Klein fill that space? Yeah, he could. I don't
Yeah.
know if I would expect that necessarily until we know, what happens perhaps in the summer transfer season, or whether someone gets signed right away. Who knows? I enjoyed the city Twitter, putting the picture of Lutz up on the phone, saying who is he talking to? That's
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny, and people like making jokes about it. Oh yeah, he's calling me. He's about to sign me.
bro. Yeah, nice. I missed that. That's great.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere, but yeah, I hope he was talking business with somebody.
Yeah, I know. I do and I don't, for the reasons we talked about there. Now I mean, just for fun, I didn't put much thought or effort into this, but there are some really fun free agents that we could just talk about. I mean, it's like too soon takes kind of preseason sort of stuff, right? We would love for Gioacchini to stay for all the wrong reasons, right? For all of the selfish reasons. We're happy for him to go, but if he were to go, there's some fun options out there. This is one that Stu shot down immediately, and he's right. But it would be fun to have Will Bruin on the team, and he can retire. The St. Louis striker could retire in St. Louis. That might be nice. I know he's a free agent right now. There are guys like Ola Kamara, Kai Kamara, Diego Rubio are free agents. This year would be, affordable Tam Gam guys that we could bring in and could, fill a lot of minutes. Those guys could, and they're experienced journeymen in MLS. I don't think they would take up an international slot at this point. None of those guys. I got a couple more there. I think, Santiago, you'd love to talk about at least one of the ones we have listed here.
Who could that be?
There was a St. Louis FC option, a former St. Louis FC player, Albert Dequa. And I couldn't believe I started listing people in the DMs, and someone was finally like, what about Albert Dequa? Perfect player. I mean, that man would shine in this system. And look at what he just did in the USL Championship. He was getting looks from clubs in England. I think it was League One or League Two levels, but that's amazing for a USL player to get looks and questions about your availability from USL Championship. He ended up getting signed at Rhode Island FC, which is a brand new team in the championship, but he got 20 goals last year in a Bob Lilly system, right? I mean, that's incredible. Athletic as heck. When he was in St. Louis, obviously he couldn't finish. Like, there were a lot of finishing problems. Clearly, he worked that out, got the Golden Boot, and he was the USL Championship Player of the Year. Awesome player, and how fun would that be, right? I think he could pull it off.
That would have been a great signing. But yeah, he signed with Rhode Island. But yeah, just seeing. We always talk about that, seeing one of these St. Louis FC players at some point coming back to St. Louis and playing for St. Louis CDSC. That would have been a great scenario. Unfortunately, he's already signed. But just thinking about USL, that could be another source if the team needs to find somebody quickly. I don't think they will move quickly. Obviously, the window is not over yet, but I think just based on the way they do things, I think they will start with the players that are there and see what they could get, and if they can replace Nico's production. If that doesn't happen, there will be a move during the summer window, based on the budget restrictions and international slots and all of that. But I think I don't expect to see any activity before the beginning of the season. We'll probably see something in the summer. But yeah, just thinking about USL and about Dequa, another player that comes to mind, and it's a player I really like, is Wilson Harris, that played for Sporting KC and had success in USL with Louisville City, and he just got resigned recently to a new contract. But yeah, USL is another source. So maybe at some point we'll see the team, bringing players from USL.
Yeah, Wilson Harris has always been a player that would fit really well in this system. You know, we always have the free Jacqueline comments, the hashtag that I like to use. That, you know, spending some money on Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I think, would work in a lot of systems, and we've seen him work really hard, even in a St. Louis FC shirt. That year he played in USL League Two. That was so much fun to watch him run his butt off for St. Louis for a change. You know, he hasn't done that since before college at that point. So I would love to see that again. But you mentioned USL. I asked John Morrissey of USL Tactics, of the USL Show, good friend from our past. He said that Philip Goodrum, you may have heard about him. I guess he kind of requested that he had interest from MLS, and so he requested a transfer from Memphis, and there was a lot of drama, and he ended up in Tulsa because he didn't want to play for Memphis anymore because of what went down. So I think this is already a no, right? Based on that situation, that's not the kind of player we want to bring in necessarily, unless it was a one-time thing. But that man, 21 goals, 6 assists in 32 appearances in 2022 in Memphis. He got 12 goals and 2 assists in 21 appearances. So he's scoring well over every other game in the USL Championship. And a similar player is Danny Musovski, who is playing or was at RSL. He's a free agent now. And I think he's the best fit St. Louis could look for in the United States right now. He's a domestic player. 1 goal every 2.5 games at RSL. He scored like crazy for Las Vegas Lights, and Reno 1868 is when I remember him playing against St. Louis FC back in the day. So really good player, Danny Musovski. A lot of interesting players. We could all make a massive list. I saw there were some guys from Europe getting looks from MLS teams, a player from Cologne or Mainz, I can't remember which, that was getting looks from MLS teams. I'll just say, Santiago, I don't think they're in a rush. I think they want to bring in the right guy. I think Lutz probably has a list full of amazing players we'd be lucky to have. And I'll just say that Daniel Gavura in the chat here, he doesn't think they're done. And Justin Barker also doesn't think Lutz is done.
I was going to ask you about that since I saw that coming on the chat. Do you think, obviously I already said no, but do you think there will be some movement and Lutz is not done?
I mean, Justin is a good head on his shoulders if he thinks Lutz isn't done. I'm with you, though. I think they're not going to rush it. If I just had to guess, if you guys wanted to hear my guess on the matter, I don't think they're going to rush it. And the only reason I think it may happen fast is someone like Lutz just is always ready for anything. I imagine every single position has a depth chart of 3 to 5 to 50 players that he would love to sign and bring in for different reasons. And so Nico might just be that excuse. Freeing up all that money might be that excuse to be like, hey, this guy I've always talked to, this guy I've always wanted to bring in is available right now. I could get him with this amount of money that is available to me. Why not try and just see if it happens? And it could just be the right guy on the right day and it works out. Otherwise, I think we wait. What do you think, Santiago?
Even though I still think no, there won't be anything. The one thing that I keep thinking about is last week. Yeah, I think it was last week. There were some remarks from Bradley Carnell on the Post Dispatch, and basically he at that point he said, "Yeah, we were done," but he said we're done. But if something happens in the market, which also makes me think maybe this Nico thing was already in the works. He said if something happens, if a player leaves or something, we may do something. But at this point, with what we have, we were done. But then the Nico move happened, so maybe Justin is right, and maybe something will happen. I just don't know. I just wouldn't like the team to rush it. But as you said, Lutz, I'm sure he has a list of players he likes. Maybe it will not materialize this during this winter window. Maybe during the summer. But if I had to say it, if I had to pick, I would say just go with the guys that are here, see what they can provide, and then if they don't deliver to your expectations, then move during the summer window. But we'll see. You never know what could happen with Lutz.
I love that because you look at what AZ Jackson, and we're about to talk about him a little bit before we go. But you look at what AZ Jackson did last year. I don't think anyone knew that was coming per se. And in a way, I love what you said there, Santiago. Like, just read the tea leaves, give everyone a shot, and you'll be able to see where we're lacking even better after we give all those guys their chances. Because yeah, AZ was awesome, and it looks like he has a lot more potential to unlock. And we still saw some weaknesses, right? And I would actually even say that a lot of those weaknesses are things that Thorson is good at. Those two are a nice complement for each other in an interesting way. One more comment. This is a good one. Fatbug24 said, "I don't think they're done, but it might not be an immediate impact, a la Thor, a la like every player on St. Louis City. Look at Ostrak." Look at Jensen, like every player was signed for the future. And so I think that's a great point. Let's talk about anything else, Santiago, about this, because we do have a few news items to hit before we leave and we're running out of time.
The only thing, last thing, it was a surprise that it was Nico. The first player to be sold was Nico. I know there were rumors about Adeniran, about AC Jackson, but then all of a sudden, this Nico Gioacchini thing happened so quickly. To me, it was totally unexpected.
Same. I didn't expect it. So you agree? That's what you said, that you didn't expect it.
Yeah, no, it was totally unexpected. So yeah, we'll see if the team goes with the players that are already here and know the system, or if it may find an alternative that maybe, as Fatback24 was saying, won't be immediate impact, but down the road when the schedule gets busy and you need a player, maybe that player will have enough time to get used to the league and to contribute. So we'll see. It's still a few days until the winter window closes. We'll see if we get some news. Otherwise, the team will go with the players that are already here, and hopefully we'll get some production from those players.
Yeah, and I do want to say, I imagine Matt Baker's listening to this and ripping his hair out because he has so much more information he'd like to throw at us. There are a few things we haven't covered, but we are going to move on anyway. But I did want to say that the goal is to kind of get Matt to fill us in on a few more things, and we'll take some info about what we have talked about tonight and kind of mix it with what Matt would like to add, and kind of add some videos throughout the week, this upcoming week. And I'm excited to kind of bring that to you guys on other platforms like, YouTube, if you guys get on there a lot, and Instagram. We're going to throw some stuff on there and some short videos for Twitter as well. Last comment. Come on, guys, buy down one of the DPs. Let's go get Sargent. Increase him from 1.3 million per year into 2.5. Let's partner him with Klaus and get this thing going. Why wait? That is a take and a half. That's Abo. Thanks, man. Appreciate that from YouTube. It's a fun one. And why not go all out? There's a whole depth chart that we could go over here and talk about how this affects all around the depth chart. I imagine we'll hit some of that with Matt Baker. I want to talk about quickly AZ Jackson being called into January camp. We got some good conversation on the Golazo show featuring Jesse Marsh and Charlie Davies were on it. And they both kind of agreed that AZ Jackson will get the start. And I hope that's like them kind of knowing what's going to happen. I would love for that to be true because listening to comments from Greg Berhalter, Timmerman was on from the Post-Dispatch, was on the call for the press conference with Greg Berhalter, and he asked him, "What do you think about AZ?" Berhalter seemed as unexcited as you could ever imagine a coach being talking about AZ Jackson. He listed all of his qualities perfectly, but it didn't sound like he was like anxious to really throw him in there, but he was like, "Hey, I'm excited to see what he can do." So clearly he's going to give him a chance. Greg's a good guy. And so these guys are saying that they think AZ is going to start in the 8 position. That'll be probably more of a 10 looking position because they think he might be teamed up with Aiden Morris at the 6 and Tim Tillman, who's a clear 8, who's a good defensive player as well. So, but it's Jesse Marsh too, who really likes a good pressing player, right? That's the system he rolls with. So take all this with a massive, a little itty bitty grain of salt that is Jesse Marsh and Charlie Davies, but that would be a lot of fun for AZ to get that that call to start or even sub in against Slovenia with the national team, get his first cap with the senior team.
Yeah, it'd be great to see him getting some minutes, whether it is from the beginning of the game or coming from the bench. But yeah, getting his first cap during his first call up will be great. A player who is expected to have great impact with City this year. The only caveat is, will he be gone during the
Yeah.
summer window? So lots of things to worry about for between now and the next transfer window.
Luckily, I think for us, he has a lot to prove yet. And I think he's going to get there based on how much he's already improved and how hard the guy works. But we'll just see where that goes. That is something to keep in mind. Appreciate you mentioning that. Lastly, I think two more things to talk about. Some fun ones. Max Schneider got signed by Indy 11, so he'll be playing in USL Championship, which is a step up from MLS Next Pro. And depending on how you look at it, for most people would agree with that. So I really hope he gets to show his quality in the next level in the United States. It's a more athletic league. It's a big boy league compared to MLS Next Pro. And so I think he'll do well there. I think his biggest lacking thing was speed. And he's such a smart player that I think he probably could have hacked it in MLS if he got a shot. And so I think he will definitely hack it in USL Championship.
Yeah. It's too bad he didn't get that shot. Obviously, he ended the MLS Next Pro season in 2022. He ended injured, and then he had surgery and had some recovery time, and ended up being the loanee to City Two. Was the one player that was on loan between City and City Two. He got called up for a game, but didn't didn't play. But it's a good opportunity for him. It's just too bad that timing didn't work for him with City. But it's a good player. I really like what I saw from him in City too. So hopefully he will do well in USL, and maybe down the road find an opportunity in MLS.
Love that as well. Indy 11 has one of the worst fields in soccer in the USL Championship, I should say, actually, because there is a difference there. He's a great dead ball kicker, so that'll come in handy in a place like Indy 11. Adam Grinwis joins the Ginger Ninja, the goalkeeper who was at Orlando City last, I believe. Joins Mark Segbers, another St. Louisan. AJ Cochran just retired from this club. Goalkeeper coach Brian Jones is at this club, I found out.
He is, yeah.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that. But Charleston Battery, Grinwis will be going there. Really quality goalkeeper, especially his reaction saves. The man is incredible. He's really good at stopping PKs. So they'll love him there. Charleston Battery is such a cool team to follow in the USL Championship. They just signed a Mexican national, a kid, to RSL. Right as Diego Luna is starting to turn into something special, they sign another young up-and-coming player from the USL. Again, that's a cool one.
Yeah. Charleston had a good season last year. They made it to the final, lost it to Phoenix Rising, but great season. As a fun fact, Anthony Marcanic's brother plays for Charleston Battery.
That's right. Yeah. Story Club had some down years and now they're back on top. I love to see it. Lastly, U21 UPSL team is going to play Saturday at 2 p.m. I was hoping this would be a home game. I don't follow it well enough to have known that unfortunately this game's being played in Atlanta against the Florida Premier FC rather, but it's a quarterfinals. 2 games ago, they won by like 6 goals. Last game was a 2-1 victory. These U21 players are doing awesome. There's like 3 players with, I think, 8 goals.
Yeah, and it's not really a U21 squad.
Okay.
It's more, well, yeah, it's called U21, but most of the players are like 18, 19.
Okay.
Because this U21, this UPSL team is like the bridge between the academy and City 2, like guys who maybe are done with the academy but want to continue developing and playing in another league before going to college. This is the bridge to that. So a lot of guys, a lot of familiar faces from the academy play with this team. So I remember talking to Luis Switcher about it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a very young team, 18, 19 years old, and this league has some teams that have some more senior players and
Mm.
players with experience in other leagues like USL, USL1. So it's a good test for our young guys, and hopefully we will see some of them with CD2 once the season ends. It's the quarterfinals against Florida Premier, and if they win, they will go to the final. It's like a final four. The national
Mhm.
finals are February 2nd to February 4th.
Okay, very cool. Well, that's it from us, guys. We fit as much as we could into this 45-minute show. We're going to hit you real hard, I think, next week. We'll do a longer show. If you're joining us on the Big 550 KTRS, please check out our podcast. Send us a review and a like. You'll get a lot more information if you follow the podcast. If you enjoyed tonight's show, we appreciate you listening and making it this far. I know you got a combination of last week's show and this week's show, the premiere of the season, and then the big news with Nico Gioacchini. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please join us in the future. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, everybody. This season is only, goodness, it's about a month away now, isn't it? 4 weeks?
Yeah, 4 weeks. February 20th
Yeah.
is the first game, so we are 31 days.
Look
31
forward
more
to it.
days.
We're gonna lead you in with style. We're gonna give you all the information we can come across. I know Matt Santiago, you're gonna get a presser tomorrow. Actually, the first one of the season.
Yeah, first presser of the season is tomorrow with Coach Carnell and Tim Parker and Roman Berkey. So we'll see what they have to say about this first week of preseason.
Love it. Look forward to it. Thanks again, everybody. Bye bye.